Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gameweek 13 pod of the FPL Wire, powered by DreamSetGo. I'm your host, Zoph, and I'm joined as always by my friend Big Man Bakar. How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing really well, Zoph, actually. 83 points for me this week. Two very strong back-to-back game weeks for me. I've finally climbed into the top 100K. In fact, now I'm ranked 70K for the first time this season. So I'm absolutely elated with how things have gone. The defense did the business for me. Rudiger, James, Cancelo, Trent, all going big. So I'm really, really happy this week.
I can see from your grin on your face, beaming from year to year.
He's got eyes on the prize. He's got eyes on the prize.
I
What
thought
about
we were
you?
past that discussion.
I didn't bring anything up. Why do you think everything's about you always?
Eyes on the prize is a very strong hint, I would like to say.
No. What about you, LR? How was your week?
First of all, I'd just like to congratulate you boys. We've crossed 1 million lifetime views on YouTube. I thought that's quite a feat and an idea that happened, a year and a half ago. Reaching 1 million lifetime views is quite a big feat. So congratulations and thank you all of you for being with us throughout this journey, and we appreciate your support. I'm in a good space. I hope we wrap up this pod quite early because there's a United game later, and then I'm off to go on a boys' trip tomorrow. So football's not going to be on my mind for most of this week. I just can't wait to get.
Let's get started. A quick word about our sponsors. DreamSetGo is a global portal for fans to gain access to sporting events around the world. Accommodation, flight tickets, hospitality, stadium visits, everything can be tailored exactly to your requirements. They also do celebrity experiences, which include masterclasses with your favorite sports celebrity or something as simple as birthday shoutouts. You can find links to the products in the description below.
All the stats that you see on our podcast are from the Fantasy Football Scout members data. They've introduced a really nice feature this week as well, where you can compare all the outfielders rather than categorized by midfielders, forwards, or defenders. I found that quite useful. In fact, I've used that in my article for the Scout, and we'll be using those tables on the analysis, captaincy analysis we're doing this week as well. So yeah, upgrades upcoming in the members area. If you are already a member, just click on the link in the description below and become a member.
Right. Let's start off the discussion on wingbacks. Really, the big topic of discussion this week. Big points coming from defense every week, and now it doesn't even feel like a surprise. Now it's like when James gets you 12 points, Cancelo gets you 12 points. It almost feels like par for the week. That's where we are, aren't we?
When I tweeted this yesterday as well. Now we're at the stage where if we get 8 or 9 pointers from defenders, it's almost underwhelming. We almost expect more points. 12, 13 pointers are basically par now, and that's the level that these wingbacks are setting. I mean, they're spoiling us actually.
Yeah, and a lot of people are actually quite. I saw a few people, not a lot of people, getting frustrated by how strong the template is right now. But I think this template is so wrong. You can't think about betting against it. I think it's foolish to bet against them. Can we? Can you bring up the ownership charts, Zoph? Because I think let's just talk about the state of play and where we are with regards to the game at the moment. So, I mean, this is just obviously Ragaboli's fabulous site, livefpl.net. Now, if you're looking at the combined ownership for Trent, Salah, and Cancelo in the top 10K, we have 81% of the game owning them at the moment. And if you add just one Chelsea wingback to this, so with James, in addition to these three, 48% of the top 10K own these four players. And 40% of the top 10K own Trent, Salah, Cancelo along with Chilwell. So you have to assume that 80%, 90% of active managers are currently owning Trent, Salah, Cancelo, and one Chelsea wingback. And I think these numbers are only going to trend upwards simply because they're the best picks in the game. Our perception with them needs to change. I mean, especially with the wingbacks from your teams off, because I don't see them as even attacking wingbacks. I see them as inside forwards at the moment. Such is their role. They are inside the box all the time. I mean, you won't be surprised if there is a week where Reece James gets a double return or a triple return. You won't be
We've
surprised.
already seen it. We've already seen a 21
already
pointer.
seen-
And it could have been
Yeah.
Chilwell again this week. We saw him hit the post early on. We saw Schmeichel make a sharp save. It could really have been Chilwell's 21 pointer this week.
And the value that these guys are offering at 6 million odd is staggering. So if you want to bet against the template, I think what you need to do is get these solid, in my opinion, currently the best picks in the game into your team, and then figure out what to do with the rest of your team. You get these 4 or 5 players, and then there are other positions in which you try to gain an advantage over anybody else. But at the moment, I'd prioritize these positions. What's your thinking, Bakar?
Just one thing before we go there. On the ownership stats we discussed earlier, we didn't see one with all the 4 big defenders. What's that ownership like? I remember you were telling me earlier.
I don't have that actually on me. I'll quickly get onto livefpl.net and I'll have it to you.
We'll pull that out.
in the
Sorry,
next-
Bakar, your thoughts, please.
Yeah. I just think that it's the famous no-brainer now to go with the 4 at the back. Such is the potential they have, and with Salah taking captaincy out of the equation, I just think you can make an incredible team with those 4 and Salah. So in my opinion, I would want to build my team in such a way that I'm able to afford those 4 defenders and have Salah in there, and the rest of the team I can sort of move around in terms of transfers. I personally think these 4 are long-term buys. Even if they do sort of get the odd rest here or there in December, that's perfectly fine. But what's great about them is that they're playing for 3 of the best defenses in the league, and they have such insane potential. They can make it up when they don't play, even if they get rested here or there, which I am sure will happen in the weeks to come. In fact, the more interesting debate is now that a lot of people are actually considering moving to 5 at the back, given the potential the defenders are offering. And I personally think that 4 at the back is the way to go, because you never know. I mean, if there is a slight hiccup in any team, you don't want to be tripling up on a defense like Chelsea's, or spreading the funds around, because in that case, getting back the structure you like would be very difficult.
I think it's just semantics. These formation rings are just semantics, because Chilwell and James aren't defenders. They're midfielders or forwards.
Yeah.
Jota, who's in our team, Cornet, who we're going to be talking about later, they're not midfielders, they're forwards. So these are all semantics. If a person playing in defense, playing in one of the best defenses in the league, is a 6 million and is actually a forward for that team when it comes to his attacking role. You don't even worry about what position he's playing in on your FPL screen. It doesn't really matter. He's one of the best picks in the game, and that's all there is to it. And you don't overthink it.
I think let's just look at the other side of the coin, right? This argument would have definitely made a lot more sense now in August or September when the fixtures were spaced out. I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate here. Let's look at both sides of the coin. Now, somebody like Gallagher, we've seen now starting this weekend, they're going to be games now every 3 days. And keep in mind, Chelsea cannot top their group even if they beat Juventus today. To top their group, they need to win pretty much the next 2 matches or score more than Juventus. So they're going to play strong teams in the UCL as well. So is somebody like Gallagher, who's more likely to play 90 minutes through all of the December games, better value than Chilwell? I think there's a discussion to be had there.
I'll tell you what influences me here, though, and it's the fact that there is no scope to drop points at the moment for either of you, Liverpool, or for either of Chelsea, Liverpool, or Manchester City at the moment. Because the point gap is 4 points at the moment, and I think all the three managers know that it's very unlikely that somebody in the opposition is going to let go of 2 points or 3 points or easy points on offer at the moment. And just because of how good these three teams are, just because of how far away they are from everybody else, I think the managers realize that they can't really afford to rotate that much as well. So I think you will see a fair bit of rotation, yes, because it's December, but I don't think it's going to be as much as we'd expect because of how close these three teams are and because they can't afford to drop points.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Pranil,
go ahead, Bakar.
You were talking about the fact about how strong these three teams are. I mean, before this week, you looked at the fixture for Chelsea and you would have probably thought, okay, Leicester, Man United, and the next two you can probably go out and avoid, right? And maybe one defender is enough. But this is the thing: even with semi-difficult fixtures, these defenders are playing for absolutely the top level teams. It really doesn't matter how hard the fixtures are unless they're facing each other, really. So for me, I just think I don't really see a reason to go without either of the four.
Correct, but you're not just attacking the point I mentioned. Now we're talking about proximity of fixtures.
Yeah. Coming to that, you were comparing someone like a Gallagher to either James or Chilwell. I'm sure Gallagher will tick along and he will play most of the games, definitely more than someone like a Chilwell or James. But I certainly think that the potential that Chilwell and James possess in one game can make up for his absence in the game he misses out. And it's just for that reason alone that I'm willing to bet on the fact that, okay, he can get rotated here or there. I mean, there's no guarantee that Gallagher won't get rotated. I think anyone can get rotated in this period.
Not
Such
necessarily.
is the proximity of the game.
There's still a few players you look at, like your Tony, your Pookies. These guys are still very unlikely to get rotated. They're still going to play 90 minutes. And while I still agree with you, I'm just trying to look at both sides of the coin. I'm not saying that you're wrong over here. I'm just trying to understand because Chelsea will rotate. Because you see, we have United on Sunday, then we have, I think, Watford away. It wouldn't surprise me to see Alonso.
Watford away, and then West Ham is an early kickoff off. So Watford away is going to be the hot spot. One. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's an early kickoff, so Watford is going to be a hot spot.
And Tuchel likes using the squad. We've seen that he's not going to completely sideline Alonso for all of December. So rotation is going to happen. So let's look at how we can supplement that. And I think the main answer to that is by having a fully playing bench. If you're going with these four guys, you need to play with a deep squad.
Exactly. And these four plus the likes of even Jota or Foden, a lot of us have them, right? So it's very, very, very important for us to actually have a very good playable bench. Because I mean, I see a lot of teams with just Livramento, and I personally don't think that's a good enough bench, in at this stage going forward. I personally think there should be, one cheap defender like Livramento is fine, but some other option, someone like a Josh King, we'll come to that later, or even Dennis, to come in when required and give us those points. This is why I personally still like Bumo as an option. I'm not too keen on getting rid of him because he's so cheap and he's gonna, offer some kind of value if you have him. I don't really see too much point in getting rid of him.
Completely agree, because that's a structure I sort of like. I have like one sort of proper player, like your Bumo. You can even have a Pookie or somebody who you would be otherwise starting. Then your Livramento, and then maybe you could have a Gilmore or a Brownhill. But that Keenan Davis spot, how important is that third bench spot? Is it worth going to a front three for a Keenan Davis versus a Brownhill? Because you'll probably need that third sub only once or twice during December.
and what you're going to
Yeah.
hit 2 points, 5 points if you're lucky on that third sub. I don't think it really matters too much. I think
Yeah.
having a playing bench of two is fair enough. But just a question, I think we're all on the same side of the coin here. We think it's worth the risk of rotation to have these four players, and we think it's worth the risk of even a benching sub on, because I've been talking about it in the previous 3 or 4 pods, where we're going to play a little bit of a prediction game and say, okay, you know what, Chilwell started the next last 3 games, Alonso is going to be starting the next one. But do you think we're going to have the guts to bench a Ben Chilwell in an easy fixture? If something like that comes,
No.
you
You have
take
to
it on the
start
chin,
them.
right?
You have to start them every week, because another thing with these guys, that's Tuchel and Pep, is they're unpredictable.
Correct.
You can't ever be
Correct.
benching them, or try to anticipate when players are going to be benched. That's a dangerous game. You just have to take the
Right.
occasional cameo on the chin.
Great. And before we move on, I mean, people must be wondering why we have Trent, Reece, Chilwell, and Cancelo in the table here, along with Mo Salah. Now, there's been a little bit of a conversation in the FPL community in terms of, Mo Salah is 180% EU at the moment, effective ownership. And do we captain these wingbacks who are producing consistently week on week? And you can actually pick good fixtures from these wingbacks, because out of Trent, Cancelo and the Chelsea wingbacks, at least one of them will have a good fixture. It might not be. It might be a lot better than Salah's fixture. So, what's your thinking here, Bakar?
I personally think that Salah is still the way to go. I know you've written an article on Scout on this, so I mean, it would be better for you to talk about it. But I personally think I'm still in the Salah perma captaincy board, just for the fact that his numbers are on another level. You'd expect the wingbacks to actually outmatch Salah in terms of at least creativity. But when you look at the table that Zoph has put up, you'd see that Salah is pretty much on par in terms of big chances created, which just tells you that he's getting on par for creativity. Then he's miles ahead in goal threat. So I personally don't see a reason to bet against Salah in this form. Um, I think he's going to be my captain for the foreseeable. The only discussion that's there to be had in terms of the next few game weeks is in game week 15. I wonder when he's up against Wolves and Kane has Norwich at home, because that's going to be an engaging discussion. But other than that, I'm absolutely confident on Salah captaincy. Why don't you talk us through it, because you've actually written this article yourself?
No, I just wanted to actually ask you guys first, because
Why not? Because
nothing's
what a question I want to ask you, Bakar, why wouldn't you captain a defender? Let me understand that first. Just purely because
Simply
you think
because
Salah is a better option?
Simply because of the fact that I think attacking returns are more predictable, and defensive returns could be sporadic. I mean, one deflection, one own goal, one freakish result. I mean, I don't want to bet against that, right? That could happen in any game, and I don't want to be betting against Salah in a week where he scores a brace, for example, and my defender gets his clean sheet wiped out due to a poor refereeing decision or something like that, right? So that's why I personally am firmly in the Salah captaincy.
Bang on.
nail on the head, Bakar.
Bang on.
Yeah.
One more
Yeah.
thing that puts me off is a possible risk of rotation. Any game I could see James, Chilwell, or Cancelo bench. I know it's unlikely. That's something you never know when they'll come on for cameo. With Trent, at least that's unlikely. So I think if you were to captain any of these guys, it would probably be Trent, I think, in my book. But then at the same time, if Trent has a good fixture, Salah has a good fixture.
Exactly. And I don't think we're going to see much of Salah rotation, because Klopp has 7, 8 game weeks of him before he moves on to
And he had no
the
options.
AFCON in a very, very tight title race. I don't see Salah being benched at all also. I mean, Bakar, you're talking about having a conversation with regards to Kane, who plays Norwich at home, versus Salah, who plays Wolves away. In my head at the moment, it's not even close. The thought of captaining Kane for that home game is not even hitting my head, because I just haven't seen the attacking capacity being matched by anybody else in terms of what Liverpool has to offer. Like you mentioned, on a bad day, right? Salah's floor is one return. He's blanked only once this season, and 50% of his games that he's played this season, he's had double digit hauls. That's his ceiling. He's hitting double digit hauls 1 and 2 games. It takes a lot to bet against him, and it's not because of EO or anything else. It's just because he's performing at a different level, and so
Incredible
is his
rate.
team.
Yeah.
But why don't you walk us
I
through
side
these
with that as
numbers? let's just go through these numbers really quick, Paran, which you prepared for us.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, Kan, I was hoping one of you would be pro the argument of captaining a win back, because I have my brain shut there and I was trying to convince myself and find reasons to do this, but I can't. So I just looked into the number as well. When it comes to chance creation, Trent is in a different league out here, and then Reece, Salah, and Chilwell are somewhat similar, where Reece is creating 2.66 chances per 90, Salah is creating 2.16 chances per 90, and Chilwell is creating 1.5 chances per 90. But the key is the big chances created table, where Salah is matching Trent for big chances created, and he's significantly above Reece James, who's next best. So Trent is. Can you move to the previous table? I just want to read out the numbers for the listeners of. So Trent is creating 0.8 big chances per game per 90 at the moment. Salah is creating 0.72 big chances for 90 at the moment, and then Reece James is at 0.47. So in terms of chance creation, Salah's with these wingbacks at the moment. Now let's talk about goal scoring ability. When it comes to shot creation, Salah is in a stratosphere of his own. He's shooting 3.2 times per 90 inside the box, out of which 1.12 per 90 are big chances. Now, the next best for shots in the box is Ben Chilwell at 1.59, and the next best for big chance threat is Chilwell at 0.32. It's a separate stratosphere. You can't compare Salah's goal threat to everything else. And people are talking about one small point is, yes, I know that defenders get an extra point for goals scored, but defenders, based on the numbers we've seen, are more likely to assist than to score goals based on the numbers that we've seen. And the numbers for the points that defenders and midfielders are getting for assists are the same. And secondly, people are talking about, you're getting 4 free points for clean sheet. It's not 4 free points. You're getting 3 extra points, because Salah's a midfielder himself, and he does clock a point for clean sheets as well. So I don't think that gain for 3 extra points of a clean sheet is worth betting against the sheer volume that Salah is hitting week on week at the moment.
Absolutely spot on. Any further numbers here? Expected goal involvement.
Yeah, again, just a separate stratosphere. The next best thing, like you mentioned rightly, is Trent Alexander-Arnold at 0.57 xGI per 90. Salah's on 0.85 xGI per 90. Everybody else is under 5, and Salah's just doubling that rate at the moment. Like Bakar said, he's just more predictable compared to the wingbacks at the moment, and I don't find a reason to bet against him.
I think maybe it's a bit of boredom also. People just want to do something different, and I can understand that after 3-4 weeks of doing something.
Yeah, I know, but it's risky because of the volume of Salah's shot taking, as well as chance creation, as well as finishing efficiency at the moment. You just can't bet against it right now.
Right. We move on to Foden.
All right, we'll move on to Foden when we're doing the City section, or
no? I think Foden deserves a separate section by himself, because he's a big topic over here, and we prepared some images. Why don't you talk us through them?
So what happened after Phil Foden's 57th minute sub and 3 blanks in a row is a lot of people tend to get frustrated, because that's what you see, right? 0 returns in the last 3 games. But when it comes to Manchester City midfielders or attackers, my funda is pretty clear. If you can predict their minutes, and if they're likely to play 4 out of 5 games, or 4 out of 6 games even, I think they're good for points, because their XGI per 90 has always been healthy, just because they play for a Pep Guardiola team. So if you can hit the nailed onness, then the players are going to be good picks. And at the moment, we have 3 good picks in Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and Phil Foden. My order of preference is still Foden first, Silva second, and Gundogan third, because I think Silva is less disposable compared to Gundogan at the moment, just because of
while KDB being out.
KDB being out, because Bilba's been their best player this season. There's no question about it. At the moment, I see him being rested 1 out of 6 games at the moment, because he's that important. And like I mentioned again, right? These 3 teams are pushing each other. There's no time to lie down. There's no time to breathe, because you need to win 3 points week on week if you're going to win the title this season. So just taking through some of the images, while Foden was playing quite wide in the City game against Everton and the game against United, what people need to realize is that Pep doesn't, if Foden is playing left in this game, it doesn't mean he's going to be playing wide left the next game. He's a tactical manager that sets up as per opposition, and he goes into minute details. And while Foden will be instructed to stay wide game 1. Game 2, Foden will be instructed to make lots of runs in the inside channel because that's how just Pep does it. It's not a
Yeah.
fixed thing, right? Positions are very dynamic when you're playing for a Pep Guardiola team. And even though he played really wide, I'm just going to take you through some of the images and the chances that Foden had in this game alone against Everton. Now, what you see here is a Raheem Sterling cross where Foden was so close to the goal, and there's a headed chance that he had. Next one. Now, this is a Raheem Sterling headed chance from point blank range where Foden put the cross from the byline. He's got the quality to put the ball on the money on Sterling's head. Sterling's shot, and he wasn't able to finish this chance. This is another chance just before Cancelo's beautiful pass, where the ball fell to Gundogan after a bit of play, and Foden is there, right there in the center of the box. If Gundogan chooses to pass to Foden at this time, the ball's there for a tap-in. This is something XG won't show you. Again, there's a cross coming in from one of the sides, and Foden's in the center of the box. It falls onto Gundogan's head, but you need to look at the position. He's in the center of the box when there is a ball coming out from wide, and that crosser is, by the way, Bernardo Silva. If you've noticed, you will see a lot of Gundogan, Silva, and Foden in the center of the box whenever the balls are coming in from the sides. They're assigned to be inside the box depending on who's holding the width on the other side. Next one. This is another one where Foden plays in a great ball from the left-hand side, and Cole Palmer almost gets onto it. Now, these are 6 instances that we cited that any of them could have turned into a goal-scoring return or an assist return. Now, you don't look at what happened in 3 games and 3 blanks. Easy to forget that he hit the bar against Manchester United as well. I would urge patience because I still think he's convincingly first choice. I expect him to still play 4 out of the next 5 games. And if you're owning Phil Foden, the only reason I might sell him is if you're going for a Bernardo Silva to fund a move elsewhere. That's about it.
Let's talk about Bernardo. Bakar, what's your thoughts on Bernardo?
Zoph?
Yes.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Bernardo is what he's asking.
I personally think it's a sideways transfer, and I won't do it. Bernardo has been going under the radar. He's actually City's second highest point scorer this season. Only Cancelo's had more. But I personally think that Jota is firmly first choice. He started all of City's 8 previous fixtures in the league. Foden, sorry.
Yeah.
In the league. So I don't personally see a reason to sell him because okay, he's been disappointing in terms of his FPL returns in the past 3 weeks, but I fully expect City to start beasting it in the weeks to come. And while he's first choice, I'm sure he's gonna give points sooner rather than later. I was mentioning this earlier about the Chelsea wingbacks that they can make it up in the weeks they don't play. Foden, I have a very similar principle with Foden that he's gonna do the same. Even if he misses the odd fixture when he plays, he's gonna do well. Just because he hasn't done well in the past 2 or 3 games doesn't mean that will continue. I personally have no concerns with him, but I see a lot of people considering Foden out for Jota. For me, it's not a case of one or the other. I think it's very important to have both actually.
But if I had to pick one, right now,
Jota.
Jota, if I had to pick one, yes, but I think Foden, if you don't have him, is actually a good buy.
Yeah. I mean, let's say somebody is selling a dud and has neither of these players. I think I'd prioritize Jota as a transfer, especially with the Southampton game at home next game week as well. Yeah.
A lot of people have been asking about Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva's numbers are actually fairly on par with Foden. They aren't bad. I mean, I would understand if someone was buying Bernardo at this point, but I have this thing in my head that Foden is actually more of an explosive pick when he plays. So I still think I prefer him.
I also think he moves back as a false nine the moment Grealish is fit again. Because Pep played Cole Palmer, and I don't see him playing Cole Palmer very, very often. So the moment Grealish comes on as an option on the left, I see Foden moving central again.
Completely. And regarding Bernardo, I'm completely on board with what Bakar said. I don't see him as very explosive. He's ticking along. I've always seen him as a guy who's very good football-wise, but not great FPL-wise, but he's been delivering this season. But at the same time, I do feel that they're better. In midfield, we have so many options, right? I think they're just better options. If you want a City attacker, you go for Foden. And I don't think there's a third one I would really advocate at the moment.
Not Gundogan saying that he was going to take the penalty that they didn't get.
I don't know how far off KDB is. Once KDB comes back, we've seen Gundogan's role changes a little bit. So I'm not really. I think they're just better options. They're not bad options by themselves, but they are just better options today in the landscape.
And you're still bullish on Phil Foden?
Yes, very much so. Still a buy/hold for me.
Great. Same page for all three of us.
One now we need to talk about, one that's being discussed a lot more, Antonio. Let's talk about Mikel Antonio. Now, these are his numbers over the last 4 game weeks. His expected goal involvement is just 1.2, despite starting all 4 matches. Just 5 shots in the box, 1 shot on target over 4 matches, 1 big chance, and just 5 chances created. Now, just to contrast this, let's have a look at his numbers in the first 4 game weeks. 3.77 goal involvement, 15 shots in the box, 8 shots on target, 7 chances created, big chances total. Night and day. No comparison. Now let's compare West Ham's numbers for the last 4 game weeks. In general, how have West Ham been doing? In terms of XG non-penalty, they have been ranked, I think, 8th, 5.39, 7 big chances. So in general, I think that attack hasn't been posting as many great numbers if we compare to the first 4 game weeks. We see a 6.55 XG non-penalty, but way more big chances. See 11 versus what we see over here, 7. Now, I guess the fixtures mitigate a little bit because they've played Spurs, Wolves, Villa, and one more I can't remember.
Everton.
West Ham played Everton?
Everton.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
That's probably the one. The fixtures have probably played a part, but there's definitely a noticeable downturn in his numbers. And thing is, he's an output guy. Like we talk about Kane, right? He's always relied on a large volume of shots, large volume of chances to generate returns. He's not getting that anymore. And let's have a look at the fixture schedule that's coming up now. They have games now every 3 days, all the way up to January. Now you'd expect Antonio to miss the Europa League games. But even the games around that, I think there's rotation there. Like you look at 12th, 15th, 18th, Spurs, they might play him in the Carabao Cup. That's a quarterfinal. Then you have Southampton, Watford, Palace in a week. There's rotation coming for Antonio. What do you guys think?
What are you thinking? You own him, and he might influence your moves. I actually want to know where are you with him, because you've definitely given it more thought than I am. I'm a non-owner at the moment, so I'm not thinking about it. But let's tell the listeners what you're thinking.
It's a tricky one because the replacements is really, now we'll just go back to the short stat images. Now, look at the numbers on top over here. King and Benteke. This is not set by any price filter or whatsoever. This is irrespective of price. The guys who are leading the stat numbers of the last 4 weeks are King, Benteke, and Oba. And then Adam Armstrong and Cristiano. These are 5 players I don't feel comfortable investing in. So where do you go out of Antonio?
What's your sell price?
I think bottom at 7.5, so it'll be like 7.8, I guess.
I mean, if I was in your position, the only person I'd convincingly sell him for right now is Callum Wilson. I think I saw
But I think
enough
that's
in
short
that
term.
game.
It's short term, no?
Short term. It's short term. If you have your back four and Salah in place, I think you can afford to make short term moves elsewhere. It doesn't really matter this much because you need to buy points. And Wilson's next fixture is a little difficult, but the 2 fixtures after that, home games, are explosive games. You won't be surprised if he's getting 3 goals in 2 games in that 3-game week period. And even ahead of that, I wouldn't not be comfortable holding Callum Wilson as my option if I'm sorting out other fires in my team, even through this period, even despite the tough fixtures. Because what I saw in the first game against Brentford, and you need to caveat that it was Brentford, and they've conceded 8 goals in the last 3 game weeks against the bottom 3 teams in the league at the moment. You do need to caveat that. But how did exactly what we expected him to do? Front foot football, attacking impetus, not really caring too much about the defense, trying to be a possession focused team. I saw all of that, and Wilson was unlucky to not get a return. So I don't mind that shift if you're trying to generate some funds. The other move that I'd like to make, if you're wanting to generate even more funds, is Timo Pukki or Ivan Toney. I'm comfortable moving to any of these 3 players at the moment. I'm not so comfortable with Christian Benteke as a pick because I don't know how nailed he is. Edward had a little bit of a knock in the previous game, which is why he was on the sub. He was as a sub and he came on in the last few minutes of the game. But I don't think he's nailed on. I'd much rather bet on these players who are more nailed.
Right.
What are you thinking, Bakar?
Yeah, I have a few arguments to make. So as an Antonio owner myself, I've gone through his numbers rigorously, like Zoph himself. Zoph was mentioning that his numbers have declined. That's actually very correct. But Zoph, what's worth noting here is despite his drop in numbers, he's still comfortably the top forward in terms of big chances, shots in the box, XG this season. So I mean, we
I mean,
talk about
this
sample
season,
size. The sample size,
you're looking at,
I know,
let's
but
ignore
like
the
the
first
sample
7, 8
size of
weeks, right?
yeah, hear me out. The sample size of the 4 weeks is small, and as you said, the striker. It's not as if there are too many strikers in and around that price point who are making their case heard. Let alone the price point. I mean, you look at even the premium strikers. It's not as if they're doing anything. The second thing is West Ham do strike me as the kind of team who will score against anyone, and I'm sure that they're still ranked fourth for XG. You mentioned that over the past 4 games they were seventh or eighth for XG. So I mean, I don't really think he's a hard sell personally. Um, because I don't think there are too many options out there. Having said that, I agree that the threat of rotation exists. I personally am looking to get rid of him because of the fact that I need to generate funds for the wingbacks and for
Exactly.
Kane, who I'm eyeing in the next week. And I personally think that getting Kane and perhaps another Chelsea wingback is more of a priority than keeping Antonio. I'm uncomfortable selling him simply because of the fact that I know that I might want him back in a few weeks. Um, uh, Particularly from game week 18 onwards, West Ham have a terrific run of fixtures. But I think it does make sense to sell him if you are looking to prioritize the wingbacks or someone like a Jota or someone like a Kane in the weeks to come, because they are more important players to own at this point in time. The other point I'd like to make is that I personally think that King is not a bad buy. He's played every single minute under Ranieri he's been available for, and as you mentioned, he's stopped for big chances in the past 4 weeks. So I know Watford's next 2 or 3 fixtures are tough, but we mentioned about the importance of having a very decent playable bench in the weeks to come. So I think he can represent good value after the next 2 or 3 weeks after Watford are done with their difficult run of fixtures.
The one problem I have with that, Bakar, is by the time Watford are done with their difficult fixtures, it's time for AFCON. Dennis is going away for the AFCON. Sar is going away
Yes.
for the AFCON. So their entire attack is dismantled at the moment. So this is the thing that people actually don't know about Watford, because their squad is the most affected in the entire league when it comes to people. I think they have 8 or 9 players going to
8.
the AFCON. And you have 2 out of the 3 attackers going away as well. I think this is a
Yeah,
very
but
important factor.
I mean, it could be I mean, when you look at it from the flip side of view, it kind of nails him for the run in.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah, I get your point as
He's
well.
not
I mean,
going
the
to get the
difference could be
service,
due
right?
to
I mean,
lack
what's
of
the
quality,
point?
but
Exactly.
it does nail him for the run in.
It does, but then I think he's nailed regardless. He's still not going to get the. He's still going to. He's not really a guy who's going to create the chances, right? He needs your Sar and Dennis to create the chances for him. So that is a concern.
also just one thing worth pointing out, if people are worried about this, would this put you off Wilson? Because he's on 4 yellows at the moment. One more yellow and he's missing one of the next 2 prime fixtures as well. Would this put you off, Callum Wilson? I remember Diogo Costa and us not bringing in him a
Yeah.
few seasons ago
See,
for
but
this
that's
reason,
I
and
would
he kept
the,
banging.
the only main difference with the Diego Costa situation is if Diego missed one game, you're still happy to keep him for the stretch after. You want
Yeah.
Wilson for this short-term stretch.
Exactly.
In my opinion, I think Wilson, personally, I think the boat has sailed, because you would have wanted him before the previous week, and now that
But he didn't do
um,
anything anyway, so the boat is
I
still
know,
flying.
but I mean, Arsenal away is a tough fixture, and then the next 2 are fine. But then you'd want to get rid again. Is
Again,
it worth wasting too many transfers,
Yeah,
right?
that's why.
I
That's
don't
why
think
I don't
so.
like it.
But if I owned him, I'd be very comfortable owning him, because I noticed Newcastle had like 23 shots this week, and they were very, very attacking. Wilson himself was top for shots in the box among all players in the league, so his numbers were great. Um, it's very apparent with Eddie Howe's appointment that Newcastle last week were playing pretty much on the front foot. They dropped Hayden for Willock, which was very clear signal as to how Eddie Howe wants them to play. And they got like 23 shots. When you compare that with their season average of 10.3 shots, that just tells you, there's a clear difference.
Absolutely. I think in terms of fixtures, it's just a shame that we can't say Benteke is nailed. I think he would be by far the standout, because you have Villa, Leeds, United, Everton, Southampton, Watford. Great run.
Don't you think he's pretty much secured his spot now with his recent
Vieira is
performances?
very horses for courses. You've seen that. They have so many options. It wouldn't surprise me with especially with fixture congestion. He gives Edward the odd game up top.
Yeah, could happen.
I'd go to Pookie. Just more nailed.
Yeah, rookies fixtures: Wolves, Newcastle.
I don't know. I mean,
Spurs.
I was one of the unfortunate ones who watched Norwich versus Southampton this week. I watched the whole game, and I didn't like what I saw from Norwich personally. I mean, I know they scored twice, but
0.4 xg
they
only.
had
Yeah.
0.4 xg, negligible shot goal threat all game. They had like 5 shots in the box. Southampton were actually very unfortunate to concede twice. It was basically down to 2 goalkeeping howlers. I mean, McCarthy, particularly with the second goal, should have done much better. I don't know. I'm not convinced by Norwich, despite the fact that Pookie is nailed, and despite the new manager bounce. I don't buy it personally.
It was just the second half performance, I thought, which was a lot better. I thought the first half performance was a dud. But once Josh Sargent came on in the second half for Cantwell, I thought they were just a little more revitalized and energized. And I thought that was much more convincing than the first half performance. And also, it's just the December period, right? You want a reliable player. Because you're already dealing with premium winbacks who are prone to rotation. You're dealing with Foden Jota, who's prone to rotation. So you want more reliable, and Benteke doesn't tick that reliability factor for me. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
On that note, I think just because we're on
what do you
topic,
think about their fixtures? Their fixtures are poor though.
Yep.
Norwich?
Not great.
Yeah, not great.
Who are they playing?
They're playing
You
Wolves,
look at
Newcastle,
their-
Spurs, United, Villa, West Ham. Arsenal,
I'd essentially
Palace,
look at them
Leicester.
from
Yeah,
I'd
not
essentially look
easy.
at them from like game week 15 onwards, because that's like the period where you'd actually want the bench, right? The game week 15 is the midweek game week. So game week 15 onwards, or game week 14 actually, game week 14 onwards is the one where I'd look at the fixtures, and I don't really think they're that good. Spurs away, United at home. I don't know. West Ham away soon.
We need hopefully Benteke, if he starts the next one or two games, then maybe we're more convinced at the moment. Also on topic, while we're talking about strikers, Tony looks like an easy hold to me throughout this period at the moment. I thought
Easily.
Brentford much better. It was a slight shift to a 3-4-3 where Tony was playing slightly more central, and he was a slightly more factor as being the end point of the attack. He did have his chances in the game as well, where there was an offside goal again. There was one shot that was cleared of the line where he'd already beaten the opposition keeper. I thought he looked lively, and I think I'm very comfortable owning him through this December period. And he's one, if somebody doesn't own, I'd be happy for downgrading an Antonio to an Ivan Toney if you're funding something like a Rafinha to a Jota or a Duffy to a Chelsea wingback. I think I'd be happy with that move.
Right. So what's the consensus?
The
boys?
other point I'd like to... Sorry, Zoph?
I was just asking, do we have a consensus on Antonio? I don't think we do.
In my opinion, he's a hold unless you need to generate funds for someone like a Jota or one of the wingbacks or Kane the weeks to come.
For whom? But then let's say we already have Tony. Let's not say Tony, because 80% of our guys
I'm
already have
perfect.
Tony.
I think I'm comfortable buying King
King. Okay, that's
to
fair.
generate funds. Yeah, if not Tony, then King. I think I'm comfortable doing that.
Ronald?
Okay for me.
I agree. I think what Bakar said very much so. There's no reason to be rushing to sell him. I'd hold him if you don't need to raise cash. But if you need to raise cash, I think there's a little bit, maybe I'm being over optimistic, and maybe there's a bit of a new manager bounce coming at Norwich. I think there could be.
I mean, it's not as if Ranieri was appointed at the start of the season. He's been appointed very recently as well.
Correct. I understand that, but I don't know. I have a better feeling about Norwich. Could be completely misplaced whatsoever, but I think.
And I
another
like
point
the team. I like the
to-
players on the team. I like Rashika. I like Sargent. Cantwell wasn't good in that first half. Gilmore and Norman are good players, and Smith is a good manager. I rate him, so I can see him ticking along.
A lot of people, have mentioned Dennis as well, but like Purnell mentioned, he might be going away to the AFCON, so I'm not sure whether he's going to be available in the one spell where you'd actually need him. So, he might not be selected in the squad, but there's always a chance. So, just be wary.
Exactly.
Cool. Let's just move on quickly to the discussion.
Another point, Purnell.
Go on.
Yeah, regarding Tony, a lot of managers I see have either Tony or Bumo on the bench. I don't think that's a particularly good idea this week, because Everton have conceded the highest number of big chances over the past 6 game weeks. This coincides actually with their injuries, and Decore has been injured, Mina's been injured. Now we saw the weekend, Damari Gray was injured. Calvert-Lewin hasn't been available. Richarlison won't be available. So they're absolutely decimated. And I think this could be a very good fixture for Brentford. And
Absolutely.
I think it could be a very risky week to bench either a Boomo or Pookie. I occasionally talk about matchups, and Everton, they have actually a very strong tendency to keep conceding chances down the middle. So I think this could be a good week
Yeah.
for either of them.
And if XG conceded non-penalty last 4 game weeks, Everton bottom.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
they've
know.
conceded more big chances than Man United, Pernell. I mean, that tells you the story.
Ooh, he went there. He went there.
It's okay. It's okay. We're getting Pochettino. I'm in a good space about my club at the moment.
Don't you say a word about that, about Ollie?
I just feel people have a very short-term memory in football, and they look at the last 2 months and what happened in the last 2 months and some of the batterings that we've gotten as him being an absolute failure, and that is so not the case because our club was a doldrums when Mourinho left, and he made me love the club again. It had been a while since I loved watching Man United and love watching the games. And since Ole became a manager, there's been so many performances where I've just enjoyed our football and I've enjoyed watching us play, and I want to thank him for that. And I'm convinced that he's done his job as a caretaker, where he's left our club in a much, much, much better position than it was before. Our recruitment was an absolute joke. I'm very happy with the ins and outs in the last 2 or 3 years. Contrary to popular opinion, I think he's left our club in a stable place. One or two important signings, and we'll be up there. And I just want to thank him. That's all. Love the guy.
That's
And our legend did better than your legend in the both seasons they competed together. So I'm happy about that as well.
farewell to Ollie. I hope he does well in his next job. Right, let's start with the game week 12 fixtures and we'll just breeze through them. We're already 15 minutes in. Let's talk. First one, Leicester, Chelsea. Not much to cover in terms of Chelsea. Let's talk about Vardy. What do you think? Bakar, you're a Vardy owner?
Bakar, are you a Vardy
Yeah.
owner?
Yes, I am. I'm comfortable giving him this week. At home to Watford, it's kind of like a plum fixture. I know Leicester have been poor, but you'd still back them to get a couple of goals at least, and I hope Vardy will be involved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm convinced too. Because what happened in that Chelsea games off, in my opinion, is once Rog changed the lineup and got Madison and Iheanacho to support
much
Vardy,
better.
they looked a lot better, and I think he will hopefully learn from that and start with these three players. And they looked like a decent team once these three were playing. So, I, Vardy owners should be fairly comfortable starting him
Yeah,
this week.
I'm eyeing Kane in the next 2 weeks, so that's why I think the fixture difficulty for Leicester and Spurs isn't that drastic this week. So I'll swap Vardy for Kane next week through the funds I generate from Antonio to King.
That's what I'm looking at as well because I'm worried about Vardy during the busy period again. I don't know how many games he's going to play.
Yes,
People say his fixtures are getting
exactly.
better.
He was rested last season as well in midweek fixtures off.
Right. That's why I think Vardy I'm holding this week. The week after I'd be looking to get rid. I think Lukaku could come into the picture, Kane, etc. A lot of other options in the premium bracket, but I don't want to hold Vardy beyond this week.
If you could make the
Yeah, I
move this
agree.
week straight from Vardy to Kane without doing a move elsewhere, would you do it?
Let's talk about Kane a little bit. We'll be jumping sections, but I rewatched Match of the Day 2 today. We all us non-Kane owners should be sending flowers, chocolates, everything to Calvin Phillips. He did a job on Kane. He absolutely shut him down. I don't think very few teams are going to be able to do that. We were very lucky. He looked threatening. But the only thing I would say, he's not 100% sharp here. The shot he took, the one that hit the post, if he hit it first time, I'm sure he'd have worked the keeper. He just took one touch more. That just shows me he's getting there. He's not quite there yet, but I want him soon. He generally looked sharper than he has in previous weeks.
Yeah, I thought we were correct with our analysis last week in terms of if we had to go to one, would we go to
Kane.
Son or Kane? Kane definitely looks the
Yeah.
far better
Kane-
option. It's not even close at the moment.
Exactly.
Unless Conte realizes that Son doesn't look like the player he should be, and he's playing so far away from the goal, not look like being in a goal scoring position even once. If you're getting a Spurs attacker, get Kane. If I was a Son attacker at the moment, owner at the moment, I'd be worried.
Yes, but another pertinent question, which quite a few people, because me and Zoph are more or less on the same page that we are getting Kane next week. A lot of people are now thinking, is it worth getting Kane in just for two fixtures alone, right? Because Brentford Norwich, those are the two main fixtures. After that,
And Burnley
it's a
without
fairly
Tarkowski.
And Westwood.
yeah. Yeah, no. My point was, after this week, let's assume that we're a Vardy owner. We don't get him this week, right? So that leaves us 2 weeks then, right? So is it worth getting? I'm personally very set on getting him because of the fact that I really like the Norwich fixture in particular. But there could be a case for going to Lukaku or someone like even Ronaldo early next week. And even there could even be an argument of going a bit cheaper, investing money elsewhere. I personally won't do it because I don't think that the money is really needed. But an argument could be made for that.
Right, because Lukaku's fixtures also perk up right after that. I think our Chelsea play, searching for Chelsea over here. Yeah, Chelsea play West Ham, Leeds, Everton. Decent fixture, but obviously Ronaldo's are better with Norwich and Brentford. So I think it's
And I
worth
don't
it.
think I don't think Kane's fixtures really become that bad also, because after Norwich is Brighton away, Leicester away, not really pulling strings in
Yeah.
defense at the moment. Then there's Liverpool home, Palace home, Southampton away, Watford away. I don't think they're bad fixtures, and you think that 3-4 you'd expect 5% improvement from Spurs every week now, because more and more Conte is drilled into that team, right? So I'm sitting fairly comfortable as a Kane owner, not too worried. Yeah, Spurs were a bit average, especially in that first half. The second half was a lot better. But am I worried at all being a Kane owner? No. And Bakar, I think you need to look at the Brentford fixture a lot closer than the Norwich fixture. Norwich have actually tightened up in the last 5 or 6 weeks. Brentford are conceding a ton of
Leaky.
chances, conceding 8
Yes, that's
goals
that's true as well. Yeah,
to
yeah.
the bottom three teams. Brentford is a tasty fixture at the moment, more so than
For
Norwich.
sure, for sure. Agree,
Yeah.
agree. Yeah,
Definitely.
a bit of an oversight on my part.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also, I want to say a word on Conte. I loved his end of the game, geeing up the crowd, the energy, hugging every player. There's a phrase from one of my favorite movies. This is Spinal Tap. It goes up. This goes up to 11. So I think with
Yeah.
Nuno they were at 1 or 2. With Conte they've not gone up to 10. They've just gone up to 11 in terms of intensity and passion. So that has to rub out. With Conte, every game is like a cup final. So I think Spurs fans should be very excited.
Yep. Yep. But like you mentioned, Zoph, you were on the money. Based on watching that Spurs game, do I see Spurs scoring more than 2 goals often? I don't. So I'm not comfortable captaining a Harry Kane in any game at the moment, because I've just not seen them blowing. They're very happy and comfortable to hold possession, not play rock and roll football like a Liverpool does at the moment. So
And that'll be
not
more so
comfortable
away.
captaining.
That'll be even more
Yeah,
so in away games. At home games, I think he'll
exactly.
be a little bit more aggressive. Away, he's going to be quite playing on the counter, and he likes to play on the counter. That he did that with Chelsea a lot.
Yeah. So I thought you were spot on with that.
Right. So let's move on. I think we discussed Vardy, Villa, Brighton. First win for Gerrard. Anything else to discuss in terms of FPL in this fixture?
0.5 XG
Now,
conceded to Brighton. Defensive clean sheet was what Gerard prioritized, and it's what happened. So I think our only thing I'd say is, in terms of our perception, in terms of viewing an Aston Villa fixture as an easy fixture, should maybe just very quickly change, because they look like a solid, steady team under Gerard, and they
Agree.
will want to play that way.
Bless you.
Bless you, Bakar.
I wanted to say that Lamptey had 38 touches in the final third, and he had a big chance to score as well. So if someone is looking for a budget defender, then I think I'd probably buy Lamptey over Livermento.
Interesting minutes, right? And we are having this discussion with Pranil, I think, over the break also. The minutes are the issue with Lamptey. Minutes and injury prone.
That's true, but I mean,
And
It's the
again, we're
December
talking about the
period,
four
Bakar.
wing
That's
he's
backs.
the
We're
still
problem.
talking
first
about
choice.
with the wing backs. No, the first choice, but he might get rotated. It's the same thing, right? He's not like you're nailed on like your Mitchell, somebody that you know is going to play 90 minutes every game, regardless. So for
Yeah,
that
fair
fifth
enough.
defender,
Yeah,
I think it's a bit risky to go for the upside guy. You got to go for the glue guy
It's,
there.
yeah,
it's
that
a
makes sense
shame.
as well.
It's a shame Wolves have poor fixtures, because Ait Nouri is turning out to be a proper option at the
Yeah,
moment, and just
yeah.
4.3 million. But Wolves have good fixtures just for 2 weeks. Then I wouldn't want to own a
Yeah,
defender at all from
fixtures
that
go
team.
south really quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Move on, Burnley.
Burnley Palace.
Kone, the Maxwell Kone show. Pranil, why don't you talk about it?
I mean, what is it? It's still quite hot in India. None of us like ice cream. I think we have been overlooking that cornetto out there for a long time, because he's the only one who scored.
Oh man,
Only
I
the
love
Liverpool
Cornetto.
only the Liverpool midfield duo have scored more goals than this man. He's genuinely out of position. You do caveat, and Bakar, I've looked at the XG numbers. He's what, Delta plus 3.5 XG at the moment, so definitely overperformed so far. But Burnley have become fun. In the last few weeks, every time I watch Burnley, I think they'll score a goal or two. I don't. It's a tough proposition for their opposition to keep a clean sheet, even if it's Chelsea at the moment, because they do have that. I think they've become a little more sexier than they were in terms of
Definitely.
how capable they are of scoring goals. And he's a forward playing for Burnley at the moment. He's out of position at 6 million. Yeah, go for it. Again, just know that he's a 7 or 8 game week bet because flying off to AFCON, plays for Ivory Coast.
Yep, yep. But he's the only person I would still buy from Burnley. Nobody else really still interests me despite
I
some
think
things.
he's. You're right. I mean, you're speaking about overperformance. He's been. Stop laughing, Zoph. I can see what you're thinking about.
What am I thinking about? Why is you get your mind out of the gutter, bro? What am I thinking?
I can see what's going on in your evil head. Cornet has been the most overperforming player in the league, over the past 6 weeks. I personally won't look at buying him. I still think Gallagher is the one in that price range, and if not Gallagher, then Bowen from a couple of weeks on look like the midfielders to have. Those two are the top budget midfielders to own, in my opinion. And number 3 would be Cornet, I think.
Given Burnley's fixtures, Bakar, they look pretty good in the short term, long term. We haven't spoken about Wood, but let's put the jokes aside. Genuine option.
He had just one shot on target, and that was from the set piece. So I think he's played more
I
of
mean,
a creative role.
he's in the same sort of price bracket as Tony, so I'm not really sure. As a Tony owner, I won't be looking to make the swap.
From what I understand, Wood's underlying numbers these days have been pretty good.
Expected data going through the roof, rising and rising.
All right,
Move
moving
on.
Move on
It
to
was just there
Palace.
for the taking.
Let's move on to
Yeah.
Palace. Let's talk about Gallagher. He actually took a pretty more advanced position with Milivojevic, I noticed on the pitch. 2 big chances created, 3 chances created, but not on any set pieces anymore. Are you still bullish on him? I know you own him.
Yeah, he's going to take. And I'm not worried he isn't going to take. And him and Zaha look like the 2 secure players in that Palace attack at the moment. Little more worried about their defense because they seem to be struggling with set pieces at the moment. That 3-all scoreline was a little unfair to Palace because Palace completely dominated the game. Burnley just had a lot more set piece threat and they were targeting that. But Gallagher reminds me a lot of the guy behind you in the frame. He's just got that Lampard sort of tendency to make the right runs, shadow runs into the box. And even though he might not have the best positioning or any of that, so I think he's got enough quality on the ball to just tick along with his assists and goals. I just think he's in real life such a good player that he won't be away from the returns.
Somebody mentioned in the chat that Ivory Coast haven't qualified for the AFCON, so might want to look that up regarding Cornet.
Yeah, I'll look at that. Oh, that makes a little Cornetto a much more intriguing option going into the next 10 odd fixtures.
Move on to Newcastle.
What do you guys think about Gallagher, by the way? Still bullish?
Yes, I want to get him. I just
Yes.
can't find the space. Like, if for any reason a midfield spot opens, I'd much rather own him than Boomer.
At the moment?
Definitely.
Interesting.
I agree. He's gonna take along for sure.
Good numbers.
Newcastle, Brentford. Bakar, you want to talk about this game?
Already spoken at length about Newcastle and how good their attack was, and also spoken about Tony and Bomo. So nothing much to add really.
Let's move on here. Norwich, Southampton.
Just
What?
target these 2 defenses. Still, nothing's changed there. For opposition target, these are the 2 defenses to target quite convincingly, I would say that at the moment.
Norwich, Southampton, we've covered as well.
I just want to give a note on Billy Gilmore. He played in a much more advanced position. So if you're looking for a 4.5 mid, I think right now he would be the top of the list, not your Brownhill, etc.
7 chances created in that game from Gilmore. So I think that was the stat. Let me check it
Seven?
very
I no, I don't
quickly.
think 7 is right. I think it's closer to 3 to 4.
3 chances out of 7 that Norwich created,
Correct.
and one of them led to an assist.
Correct.
Yes.
3 chances he created. That's
Yeah.
what I remember seeing. So it's
Yeah.
worth monitoring because he
Pranal, would
takes
you
set
like
pieces also.
to?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bakar.
Go on, Bakar.
Pranal, would you like to run us through Watford, Man United?
Brutal.
Terrible.
Bakar's got the knives out today.
Yeah. But shambolic in a way. I'm kind of happy that it happened because I feel a little relieved for Solskjaer more than anything else. I think he just needs to move away, take a nice little break for a month. And it seems like it's sort of led to us being open to the possibility of getting Pochettino in the next 2 or 3 weeks if there's a whole merry-go-round in place if PSG are interested in Zidane, which I think is a great fit. I think Zizou is meant for the Galacticos at PSG at the moment because he's got that big man aura that nobody else does. And even if he's dealing with Neymar and Messi at the moment, they'll listen to that guy. So I think both the clubs will find the right man for the job because there's a little bit of an issue between Leonardo and Poch at the moment as well. So my first choice as a United fan was Ten Hag, and Pochettino was second choice, and I'd be very happy with either for our club.
But
at the
what if,
moment.
let's say, Poch doesn't come? Do you expect an upturn in the performances? Because you still have the same guys, Carrick, Phelan. They're all. It's just Solskjaer who's gone as a figurehead. Do you expect performances to pick up, assuming Poch doesn't come right away?
You need to see that. I don't know what Carrick is capable of. I don't know what he's done so far. There was talk that Solskjaer and Phelan were sort of one duo in that United training camp, and Carrick and McKenna are one duo, and Carrick and McKenna run the trainings in that United team. And so many times what happened is we've trialed the three at the back quite a few occasions, and that's what we practice. This is how shambolic it was. We've trialed three at the back quite a few times, and we used to play that all through midweek. In training, and then Solskjaer on Friday decided, no, what, we're going to go with four at the back, and he tended to favor the players that were performing poorly as well. You know, players like Van de Beek and Lingard didn't get a chance. So if Carrick and McKenna stick to the process and they're making changes that the team are liking, then I'd pay close attention. It depends on how the team are reacting to that new setup.
Somebody in the chat is saying Phelan has also left. I'm not sure about that. I think you can probably know better.
Yeah. Right. Do want to talk about Wolves though. Jimenez has been ticking along quite nicely. 5 returns in the last 6. Just think it's too late to jump onto the bandwagon right now, Zoph?
Yeah, because
Given
only
the
two good
fixtures.
fixtures. Only 2 good fixtures, and then it goes south really quick.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I'm on the same page as well.
West
Moving
Ham.
on to Wolves versus West Ham. We
Yeah.
spoke about West Ham.
West Ham, I think we've spoken about it. I just want to say, like, Bowen probably looked better than Antonio in this game, but West Ham in general looked quite poor. They didn't
Yeah,
create
they look
much.
tired. And I don't think you read too much into this performance because it's after the international
First
break and all
IB
of that. So
post,
yeah. So you wait. It does make a difference though that I don't expect them to be as good as they've been because that's going to be the case with all of these squads that are very strong 11 and not really any quality options on the bench. I think we're going to see a downturn in performance in this December period for all of those teams that don't have a bench. And something that Moez mentioned that you and me were talking about, you had a chat with FPL Lions, Luke, who's a West Ham fan and a great FPL mind as well. He said that that Antonio looks a little bit tired, and this is something that Moez also mentioned, where in his press conference he said that Antonio is generally super fit, and that's when he does really well. At the moment, he's just fit, so that does sort of line up with him being maybe tired into the conversation. So it's worth monitoring.
Anything to add here, Bakar? Move on to Liverpool.
I think we can move on.
Liverpool, Arsenal. Bakar, how was this game for you as watching as a non-Jota owner? I want to hear that.
I must be thankful as a Ramsdale owner that he saved Jota from scoring more. Could have been 2 or 3. Really, had it not been for runs, and I think it could have been an even bigger Salah haul. Actually, Salah walked away with like 8 points out of the game. I think he could have had much more. Other than that, there was business as usual from Liverpool. I fully expected a reaction after what happened against West Ham. That's exactly what happened. Nothing much to add, really. Arsenal do struggle in these kind of games, so I won't read too much into it.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to say that if you don't own Jota, this is the week you prioritize him as a transfer.
It's worth mentioning during Klopp's presser, today he wasn't asked about Jota at all. he didn't bring it up. He spoke about other injuries. He spoke about Hendo, Robertson and stuff, but there was no mention of Jota. So I guess we can only assume that if Klopp hasn't mentioned any injury or anything of the sort, he's fine.
Yeah, the reason Utkarsh is mentioning this is because he did have a knock, and that's why he was subbed off in the game against Arsenal as well. So it's just worth monitoring before you make the move, that you know for sure that Jota's fit.
City, Everton, I think we've spoken about Foden and Bernardo. Not really much to talk
I
about.
think we've covered
Everton.
City and Spurs in detail. So
Yeah.
is there anything to add about Leeds United at the moment?
Yeah.
Nope. They actually look better than I
Nope.
thought they would without Rafinha. That's all I have to say.
Same.
I thought they were fabulous in the first
I
half.
watched the highlights actually. I didn't own Rafinha, Son or Kane, so I didn't want to go through the trouble of watching the game. I actually
Scouting,
just went to
Bakar,
sleep
scouting.
early. I went to sleep. I couldn't watch it. 90 minutes of absolute torture. I can't go through that. I woke up and without checking the score, I clicked on the highlights, and to my amazement, I saw like a 20 minutes package, and I was like, oh, damn. Hat tricks from Kane, hat trick from Son, damn. Here we go. But thankfully, nothing too damaging at all.
What did you make of the highlights, Bakar?
First half was poor. Second half, Spurs looked much better.
Yeah.
And Kane looked better than Son.
I was worried
That's
when
where you
Leeds
are.
For
scored.
sure. Absolutely. Kane got into much more threatening positions, I thought.
And what about the fullbacks? Where are you guys on that? Emerson versus
Emerson didn't look as good. I thought Reguilon looked by far
Yes,
the better.
exactly. And even the stats suggest that Reguilon was getting more touches in the final third. The only sort of surprising thing is the fact that his minutes are a bit limited. He tends to get subbed off early, but I still think he's the pick over Emerson. Sorry.
The only thing I'd be worried about is because he's I'm just a little worried about Sessegnon in the background, because I think he's a quality player sitting on this first bench, and he's a natural wing back in that position. So Conte might give him a shot on that side, and I'm a little worried about that.
Maybe the
if I
odd
was to
game
go.
if with the fixture so congested. But I like the noises that Reguilon has been making about the tough training sessions. But I think he's buying into it. He's buying into the Conte thing.
And I think you're going to see a lot of early subs when it comes to these fullbacks also, because they're running a lot more than most of the positions on the pitch as well. So this might happen, which might actually lead to some 70-minute clean sheets for these positions as well. But you could also see some 55 minutes one pointers.
He doesn't do that. The thing with Conte, his minute sub timings are quite predictable. As at least it was with
70-ish?
Chelsea, 70-ish. Early 70s is when he usually makes his sub, and he almost uses all three of his subs every game. He did with Chelsea. It's just that if they're there, he's going to use them.
He could have used 5 in that first game. Kane looked gassed in the last 20 minutes. He could barely walk. He was done. All of them were done. I mean, the fitness levels required to play for Conte are next level.
And it's also playing Leeds, right? The Leeds also, you have to match their intensity.
Yep. And Leeds were great in that first half. I thought they were a really good first half. Cool. Moving on.
Let's just have a look at the next week's fixtures. Anything interesting you guys would like to cover here?
If there is ever a week to not bet against Salah, this is the week. Don't go for it. Don't go anywhere else for captaincy.
I don't even see anybody who really appeals.
Nobody.
Which other fixture really stands out this week? Probably
Salah's
Auba.
obvious, really.
Only Auba. I could only see the Arsenal fixture.
No.
Being a none of the other ones really.
I'm surprised Zoph isn't coming with a Chelsea as an easy fixture. Do you reckon captaining Reece James? We haven't
We haven't spoken about Anthony Taylor being appointed as a referee. It's going to be disastrous. I despise Anthony Taylor with every fiber of my deepest being.
No.
The amount of decisions we've made against Chelsea over the years have been absolutely shocking.
Yeah, this is probably the least I've cared about the Chelsea United game in a long time, though. I'm just waiting to see what happens. I'm more interested in what's happening on Twitter and in the news outlets in terms
I
of
just
what
know you guys are
getting.
going to troll me because now I've gone double Chelsea defense. I've been trolling United all season. Now all is gone. Yeah. It's like the perfect 1-1 result.
Yeah. And it's not even going to be somebody popular. It's going to be McTominay scoring a header from a set piece. That's what's going to happen.
The proper troll goal.
Yeah.
What we call.
Yeah. Any temptation for Trent captaincy? Somebody in the chat is asking.
We discussed that at length
No,
already,
I mean, we
right?
discussed this as well. I don't think so.
Because I think Southampton can score. In fact, this week it's very tricky because I think Southampton are more likely to score than to keep a clean sheet. Even against Chelsea, when they came on second half, they looked quite good against City. They offered something in attack as well. They were very unlucky not to get that penalty for Armstrong against City. So I don't think this is particularly the week you can go against Salah with Trent.
Yeah. But by the way, I'm totally expecting a 3-0 win from Chelsea. I think the gap in quality is too much at the moment.
I hope so. And what helps is the turnaround is quite long. We play Juventus today on Tuesday, and then our game is on Sunday. So we can go strong 11 today, strong 11 on Sunday, and then rest possibly against Watford.
The problem with our team is our defense at the moment. We're behind.
But yeah, but Maguire isn't playing. That's the problem.
Chelsea should appeal for his
I know we should
suspension.
appeal for his suspension.
He's a good defender in a good system. Our team wasn't well coached, is where I stand on Maguire.
Yeah, and exactly. You need to play to his strengths.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. You got to do a quick review of Team XG. I think we already done that, or should we just skip to our teams?
Skip to our team.
Skip.
Right. First up, you have your team, Pranal.
Right, I'll read it out for the benefit of the listeners. And keeper, I have Ramsdale. In defense, I have Trent, Cancelo, and Reece James. In midfield, I have Salah, captain, Foden, Jota, Gallagher, and Boomo. I'm very happy to listen to Bakar's stats about Everton. And up front, I have Kane and Ivan Toney. And my first sub is Duffy. Second sub is Mope. Looking to save this week with a view to move to Chilwell next week.
I agree. I think it's a simple save here. You really have any
Comfortable.
fires that need to be put on, and there's no way. How much do you have in the bank?
0.1 million.
I'm guessing Mope will probably be the one to make way.
Yeah, the plan that I have for next week is either I downgrade Mope and upgrade Mope to a 4.8 million forward and upgrade Duffy to Chilwell, or I somehow fund Callum Wilson for the 2 home fixtures if I like what I see from Newcastle. That's what initial thoughts are.
It's going to be tricky to upgrade to Chilwell while keeping a strong bench.
Yep.
Because even
Very,
Duffy,
very
I worry about Duffy also.
You could potentially make that move this week, Mope and Duffy out for Chilwell and a fodder, but that would give you benching headache as well.
Your stats about Brentford were so convincing that they put me off completely, Bakar.
Yeah, it would give you a benching headache for sure this week. So,
yeah.
But I'm aware that there's 2 days of Champions League games. So if any sort of injury crops up, that's the move I've lined up.
Makes sense. Right, Bakar, your team, Mr. Rudiger.
I have Ramsdale, James, Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, Salah, captain, Foden, Boomo, Rafinha, Vardy, Tony. On my bench, I have Foster, Antonio, Livermento, and Brownhill. So I have 2 free transfers with 0.7 million in the bank. As I was speaking about earlier, my plan is to move Vardy to Kane next week. So I've been working backwards on my transfers, looking at the team I want next week. So what I'm likely to do this week is Rafinha to Jota and Antonio to King. That would A, give me Jota, and B, it would give me funds for Kane next week. The other move I can do for a hit is Rudiger to Chilwell. Now that is optional and that is down to personal preference. I personally think Chilwell is a far superior option than Rudiger, but the counter argument could be that Chilwell is more likely to get rested in the weeks to come. So maybe when fixture congestion kicks in, is it really worth the hit? That sort of makes me dicey, but I'm leaning like 70-30 towards that move. I'm curious to know what you guys think, whether Rudiger to Chilwell is worth a -4 this week.
LR, you first.
I think at any point you make the Rudiger to Chilwell move, I see it paying off in 6 game weeks. Whatever game week you make that move, it'll pay off in 6 game weeks.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I should have made the Diaz to Chilwell. I should have made the Diaz to Chilwell move long ago. I made it this week, but that's pretty much what we said on the pod also that time. Just get the move, because you won't do it next week either. Next week you'll be worrying about the Kane thing. There's never going to be a good time to do it.
It'll pay off. 4 points in 6 game weeks, easy payoff. And that is despite acknowledging Rudiger's new role where he's carrying the ball further up the pitch. He's got a
and carrying and acknowledging the risk of rotation.
And acknowledging the risk. Chilwell is more of a forward than Reece James also. His positioning is ridiculously good. Just make the move.
Yep. I like that idea. Antonio to King gives you a decent bench option also. Going into forward, somebody is pretty
Exactly.
nailed. You have Brownell. It's a clean structure.
Yeah.
Pretty good. We'll move on to my team. Ramsdale in goal. Cancelo, Trent, James. I've made the move for Diaz to Chilwell. Earlier used one of my free transfers. So that's Chilwell and
14% off, by the way. People who
combined, right?
own Salah and the 4 premium defenders, 14% on the top 10K.
Not much. It feels like a lot
Wow.
more
That's
looking at our mini leagues.
Yep. Now you
now
should be
the.
actually cheering for the Chelsea clean sheet
I think
because now
the
you.
number. I think the number would be much higher this week. I think it would be
It's going to go up, right?
around what 30 to 40%. I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Because a lot of the Diaz
This
guys are
week.
going to ditch now. Like me, the people are
For
losing
sure.
patience.
Yeah. Exactly.
And like, yeah, just as a note,
And
about
James is
Diaz-
like one of the most highest transfers in this week, Zoph.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, anybody who has Diaz, I suggest make the move to Chilwell because the appeal for Diaz was always minutes. That you're getting minutes every
James.
week. Oh yeah, exactly. Either one of the Chelsea
Yeah.
wingbacks, basically, if you don't have them. Right. So that's the defense. Foden, Salah, Cap, Jota, Bumo, Tony, Vardy on the bench, Foster, Antonio, Livramento, and Brownhill. I'm looking to probably save the other transfer and I'll look at how I'm going to get in Kane next week. Might not even get him, might go straight for Lukaku. Keep an open mind, see where things go.
Cool.
That's about it. Should we do a Q&A? Guys
How
can
much?
send it.
How much in the back, Zoph?
0.0. That's why I had to move for Diaz to Chilwell on Sunday night because they both look like moving in prices the other way. I would have been priced out. Otherwise, I would have waited for the UCL game.
Zoph, at this point in time, what sort of route are you thinking to fund Kane? I know you want to keep an open mind, but still, what's right going through your head?
What I was actually thinking was not probably Kane. I was actually thinking of Son. And I have a clear route to Son, which I like. Would probably go for Wadi to Pukki and Boomo to Son. That gives me the
That
sort
game
of
put
depth I
you
want.
off.
But Kane now, I really don't. I want to give it one more game, see how it goes. Because more than Kane, I want Lukaku later, and I have a good feeling about Lukaku that he's going to come back strong. I want to have that
But
option there.
that Leeds Spurs game must have put you off, Son. Like even if you can't afford Kane at the moment, I just don't know how Son is going to justify 10
Exactly.
million.
I don't exactly.
in
That's
his current
precisely
role.
why I don't think
Yeah.
Son is necessarily worth that. So I'm going to see. what
I
had to-
think the premium forward structure is the one to go for, Zoph. So I think you should
Yeah.
look at
Probably Antonio to
potentially-
Pukki would do it eventually. I don't see any other route.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically.
I don't want to do Jota to Gallagher. I don't want to do Foden to Gallagher. So
Yeah.
Antonio might have to be the one making way. And then when Firmino is back, I'll move on Jota to Bowen.
That's not going to be until after AFCON. It's going to be a while. You don't want to move Jota now until after AFCON because Mane and Salah are gone. So Jota is going to
We
stick
don't
in
know,
it.
correct, but we don't have a timeline because AFCON is we're talking about around Boxing Day. Firmino, we still don't have a clear timeline as it. Every week he says getting closer. So
Yeah, I know. You mentioned that I'll move Jota on. I don't think you're going to move Jota on until Game Week 23 at least.
possible.
Given he's fit.
But yeah, what if I can move Bowen out for Bowen or something like that? But and I don't think the whole value thing on argument really makes sense on Antonio. It's only 0.3. Not a huge thing. Like back in the day, we used to have players who had gone up in price by 2 million. It would cost 1 million more to buy them back. That's when it would really make a big thing. But I don't think 0.3 is much of a big value loss. You have to pay.
And
that.
also, if you own Cancelo, Trent, James, and Chilwell, you're already winning the value argument because they're offering so much value in the team that you can afford to have some lopsided, not so much value picks the rest of your 5 players.
Absolutely right. Guys, send in your questions for the Q&A. We'll just do a short one before wrapping up.
Very quickly, we had a super chat earlier as well from Ankit. Grey replacements for the next 6 game weeks: Gallagher, ESR, or Cornetto. Cornetto for me. Gallagher or Cornetto?
Gallagher.
I'd go Cornetto at the moment. I think he's the better option compared to
fragile.
Gallagher.
He's quite fragile in terms of injuries. That's what I worry about him.
I'd still go. He's explosive also. So,
that's true. He's far more explosive than Gallagher.
The best cheap forward for the next 4 game weeks: Wilson, ASM, or Benteke. Wilson for me. What do you guys think?
Wilson. But 4 yellow cards. No, that's the issue.
I'd still go there. Capable of bracing in one of the games. That's my thinking.
Benteke.
Bakar?
I would probably go with Benteke as well. Yeah.
Not ASM. If you're going to buy the forward, buy Wilson. He's mentioned ASM as an option. ASM.
Is Son to Kane sideways? Can move worry to Kane? I don't think it is sideways at all. I know of good managers who've done the move as well. You go by what you see. If Conte changes the system and Son starts being more attacking,
I think this is a
uh,
good move to make in by next week. Yeah.
Yep.
what
You
do you
don't have to
think,
take a
Zoph?
hit for it if you can do it for free. I think it's an upgrade. It's not sideways.
Yep. Cool. All three of us on the same page with that as well. Nice. We're very synced in our thoughts this
Apparently
pod.
now Ivory Coast is at the AFCON. We're getting all sorts of different conflicting rumors. We have to check afterwards.
I'm just going by the article that I've
Yes.
read on the
Oh, yeah.
Scout.
On the
and-
Scout is mentioned. The Scout have done their homework. Then, yeah, they have qualified.
Boomer to Jota or Bilwa this week? Good move. Go to Jota. Jota should be first priority, Nihal.
Jota.
For sure.
Definitely Jota.
Ravand is asking, sell Ruff to Jota for a -4? Yes, I'd do it.
Yes.
What do you guys say?
I'm kind of doing like similar. So yes.
Yeah. If there was one week where Jota is capable of bracing or scoring a hat-trick, he's capable of doing it any game, but
Just wait
Southampton,
till
you
Friday.
fancy
Wait till Friday
Yeah.
or wait till tomorrow. We at least see him in the squad.
Yeah.
Let's get some confirmation or see picture in training, something like that.
Debrup Das, are we sleeping on Ronaldo from Gameweek 16 onwards? My perception is we'll probably get Conte. We'll probably get Pochettino by then, and we don't know how he's going to set up. So we'll need to do a little bit of new manager analysis and how he's setting up the team by then. So
But
it's
I
a
think
wait and
irrespective
watch.
of whoever the manager is, even if you have Carrick in charge, United will score goals against Norwich and Brentford. I don't think anyone's
Yep.
sleeping on Ronaldo. We've been talking about this transition from Kane to Ronaldo for donkey years now.
Exactly. But Poch is going to be if Poch does come to the club, he's going to be frustrated with Ronaldo because he's been a press monster of a coach himself as well, and he doesn't like people who don't press. So I wonder
and
what
minutes,
happens.
I think we're not counting the minutes thing for Cristiano with fixtures so close. I wouldn't be surprised if he's benched.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. Antonio Livra to Pukki James for a -4. I don't mind it. He's getting Reece
Antonio
James.
Rivera, Pukki James. Yep, I like that.
I just think
would do
that
it as
James and
well.
Chilwell are two of the best picks in the game at the moment. So you just do it. Should Son owners be patient? I mean, if you have no other fires in the team, yeah, he's got good fixtures, so you can be patient. What do you reckon?
I don't
Boys?
think, but Son didn't look as.
I don't
good
think it's a
versus-
hard sell. I'd
exactly.
keep him if. Yeah, I mean, it's just that if you can get to Kane, then that's fine.
But Son isn't a bad pick per se. I'm still not as convinced.
Exactly. In isolation, he's still an okay pick. I mean,
He's taking all their
give him
set
a week.
pieces. He still has many routes to points.
Yeah.
In away games, because we still saw Kane dropping deep against Leeds.
Yeah.
And that naturally has to do that because they don't have that number 10 sort of player.
And he needs to make that shift from Moura to either Ndombele or Lo Celso because
Moura
this
was
isn't
their best
working.
creator. Moura had a better game than Son, I thought.
Yeah, he did, but he needs a creative midfielder. Moura is more of a vertical runner and doesn't really have that creativity. And I
agree.
think these two players, he needs to get one of them into the thing. And if that happens, I'd be worried about Son getting subbed off for Moura in the last 20-30 minutes of every game as well. Because Moura is a press monster, Son isn't. Right? That's what we discussed in the previous pod as well. So just things to talk about. I think that's it, guys.
There's a super chat
one
from
last-
Sai, above average FPL.
What's up, CY? How's it going? What do you think about Pulisic an issue? Yeah, with Pulisic back, I don't think you go there because there's going to be rotation.
We have Werner also coming back. So the only reason that we've seen Cho getting consistent game time is because of Werner being out and Mount also having all these other issues. So I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agree.
Yep. All right, that's it from us this week, guys, and we'll see you probably next Monday because it's a Tuesday deadline. We'll see if there's much to talk about or not. If there isn't any new topic to talk about, then we'll probably do a midweek pod next week because there's fixtures every 2 or 3 days now. So enjoy the fixture crunch and good luck. See you, boys.
Good luck. See you next week.
Good luck, boys. Take care.